The hell was Horchak?
That's Czechoslovakian.
Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lex, and I would greatly appreciate it if you want to support me, if you want to support the channel, if you would consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. It helps to get the videos out there, and it inspires me to keep creating. We are here for Love is Blind. Obviously, I know y'all love the show. I like this show too, so we will definitely be here the whole season talking about not only recaps of the episodes, but anything else that comes out on the interwebs about this show. So definitely be here. I am also recapping a couple of other shows, Ready to Love, Married at First Sight, and Traitors. So look out for those videos on the channel as well. Today we are going to talk about Love is Blind Season 8, Episode 2. We are in Minneapolis, and let's begin. So we start off with Taylor and Daniel. Now they realize that Taylor's dad's name is also Daniel, and Daniel's like, is that weird? Like, is that kind of a weird thing? And she's like, no, I love my dad. It's awesome. Taylor does reveal that her dad was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer back in September.
An illness or something to make you realize those things.
Wow.
Sorry.
No, you don't have to, don't apologize. It's just...
However, he is currently going through treatment now, and while the doctors think that he should be fine, everything is going well, this was very much a wake-up call for her, and she really does discuss how it is kind of a shame, how you don't really realize just how much you love and care for someone. You might know in the back of your head, but you really those feelings come to the forefront when something bad happens, and it is kind of a shame. So it is unfortunate for her to realize that illness made her realize, goodness, my dad might not be here to walk me down the aisle, to be here for my wedding. So for Daniel, he loves the little things in a relationship. He can't wait to buy his partner flowers, you know, to come home with chocolates. Daniel is definitely about the sentimental, and that is something Taylor loves. And I think a lot of us women, we like that. We like when our man listens to us and does things for us that show that he really heard what we are saying. So Taylor reveals that she has a Taco Bell tattoo on her bottom lip, and this was the only place that she could get this tattoo without her mom noticing. And they start to joke around and banter about it. He says if things works out, he'll get a Taco Bell tattoo. Then she tells him to get a tattoo of a fast food that he likes. So he says he would actually get Chipotle or something like that. I don't know, but I definitely saw it for the two of them. I do think that they had a good, healthy mix of talking about deep topics, but also bantering and having fun. So Sarah from back in the pods, because Sarah, I believe, was talking with Meg, and she is saying that she does not have a type. She loves dad bod, she loves tall guys, short guys, she has dated anyone. We're just now getting introduced to Sarah this episode, and for her, working as an oncology and bone marrow nurse has changed her perspective on life. It has made her grateful for the little things and really shown her that there is a lot to be grateful for in life. So Sarah and Ben, and I believe Ben, we are also being introduced to this episode. So Ben is like, do you eat healthy? He's like, wait, I don't want you to think that I'm like fishing to figure out what you look like. So let me rephrase it. Are you a health nut? Now, Sarah does say that she is a foodie. She does love to try new things. For her, she's an air fryer chef, and she realizes that steak doesn't work well in the air fryer. And then they both bond over the fact that both of their dads cook the best steak. Now, for Ben, he grew up in a strong Christian household. He does believe a lot of the Bible and the Christian faith, but he says there's nothing to be known for certain. However, one thing for sure that he knows is that God loves them, and it is very important to him.
Something I need to work on.
Is there a special dish that you're really good at cooking?
Everything is just like so easy, like in my air fryer.
Yep.
Okay, steak in the air fryer does not work.
So for Sarah, she was raised Christian. I believe she said she was Catholic. However, at this present moment, she's not really identifying as religious. For her, she does believe in a higher power, but not necessarily any specific religion. So for Sarah, her older sister is gay, and because of this, she has kind of a tainted relationship with the church, because how can a lot of the church say love thy neighbor and all of these different things, but then you go into the church building and they condemn certain people. Now, for Ben, he says that, well, Sarah asked Ben, let's say, would you feel comfortable being around my sister, if we do get together? And he does claim that he would be comfortable 100%. He does admit that he did have a point in time where he did feel that maybe being gay was a sin and that wasn't okay. But as he got to college and as he went through college, he started to question those viewpoints and realized that maybe that's not true after all. Now, Sarah is curious if Ben does go to church every weekend.
Prefer it, yes.
Yeah. I am open to finding a church that accepts all people and others.
I'm not going to try and convert you.
And he does say he does, and that he would prefer to have a partner who would be willing to join him in that. Sarah does say that for her, she is open to the possibility of going to church every weekend, but it is really important for her to find a church that is accepting of all people. Ben does say that he is not trying to convert her. That's not his interest. Instead, he just wants her to be comfortable with his lifestyle if that's where they want to be. So religion is obviously a very touchy subject, and there are so many levels of religious people. There are people that are very strongly Christian or very strongly into their religion. It is a facet of everything. They believe in these traditional values. And then there are people that are maybe a bit looser. Obviously, there are definitely people out there who have relationships where you have opposing religious views and it works. But I do think that if you are somebody where your religion is a big part of your life, which we see that for Ben, religion is a big part of his life. I think Ben, I'm gonna be honest, I feel like he was kind of trying to downplay it a little bit with Sarah, saying, oh, I kind of believe it, when it's clear, like, sir, you go to church every weekend, and that's okay. Stand in that and say that. And obviously for Sarah, she has a bit of a tainted relationship with the church. She does not have the best experiences with the church. So for me, I'm not saying I don't think it's going to work. I don't think they're a match, though. And I feel like it is going to be a very awkward thing where Ben seems very set in his ways and very set in his church. And I think that Sarah is definitely a little bit more in the middle. So we'll have to see how it plays out with those two. But as I said, I just feel like if you both have your views, neither person should have to compromise on their views. For Ben, I'm sure there's a woman who would be open and ready to go to church every weekend with him. And for Sarah, I'm sure there's somebody who's either non-religious or is very loosely religious, but doesn't really go to the church like that. So yeah, I didn't really find those two to be a match just based off that alone. I do think that that is a deal breaker. And I think with them, I don't see it. So Molly and Lauren, they're talking a little bit in the pods. There's a little bit of chatter, or let me not say they're talking, but there's a bit of chatter about them in the pods. Lauren is really at this spot right now where she's unsure if Molly was telling her on purpose that she has a relationship with Dave as well. She's starting to get into her head. She doesn't know if that Molly was trying to sabotage her or what was going on. But she's really starting to get paranoid about how the connection with Dave is going. So Dave and Lauren. Lauren is being very, very vulnerable with Dave right now, letting him know that she really did have this fear of connecting with someone and then not being chosen. She asks, did you hear the joke I made yesterday about like you having another date tomorrow? And he's like, no, I don't remember that one. Now, he tries to give some context by saying, look, you did change my day. You really did make me happy. But the other girl that I'm talking to, like, also, she's so like fun and funny. And I know this is awkward to say, he's like, I don't understand you, but in a good way. And they kind of start to circumvent the conversation. And I'm like, Dave is not giving serious. Dave is giving very, very unserious, because we see this in this conversation where he barely remembers what he said. He doesn't think about what he says. It's not giving, I like you and I want you to feel like I like you. It's giving, you're one of a few. And if I choose you, I choose you. If I don't, I don't. out. And to me, at least, that energy just wasn't giving. It was giving very nonchalant. I think Lauren is wanting this man to be here and Dave's all the way back there. It was just giving nonchalant. So they do start to change the conversation up a little bit, and they start to talk about playlists. She's like, if you're cooking dinner, what's on your playlist? And he says that he has playlists for everything. He has a sex playlist. Strike two. This man is bringing up sex yet again. In the last episode, all he wanted to talk about is sex. And yet again, he's talking about sex. And as I said before, to change the perspective that you are superficial, it's not helping to bring up superficial topics all the time, Dave. It's not helping. So she mentioned some person that's on her playlist and he doesn't know who it is. I also did not know that artist, but he's like, my sister would probably know that. You probably would get along really well with her. I think that's an artist that she listens to as well. This man is always bringing up his sister. Like, I get it, but the way he brings her up, it's a little weird. Like, I don't know. Something about it is a little strange to me. So he says that his sister would be mad at him for being here because she never thought that he would actually be on this experiment and be doing this. And the fact that he's actually connecting with someone else is not something that she would have expected. So why does he always talk about his sister? I want to know what the relationship is like with his sister, because I'm wondering if it's like the kind of relationship where she's really up in his business all the time. She's having to speak up and blah, 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 really, really loud about everything Dave does. It just seems odd the way he describes her. He's always talking about his sister as if she's someone that he needs to impress and that he needs her validation. And I understand that his mom passed away, so it is possible that his sister's older than him and maybe she almost has a parentified role in his life, but something about it just isn't really making a lot of sense to me. So Dave also talks with Molly. So for Molly, being together and making things fun is really important to her, and Dave agrees. He really is loving the neutral chemistry they have, and I agree. I do feel like they really do banter well. I think Molly really has it on lock how to communicate with Dave in a way that I feel like Lauren doesn't.
Me and you, from the start, I love that natural chemistry that we have.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a bit of a communication gap with Dave and Lauren, whereas I think with Dave and Molly, they're like this and they really know how to bounce off of one another. So Molly brings up how she remembers that Dave said he didn't have the same integrity growing up, but she doesn't feel like she sees that in him. She really thinks that he's changed. And Dave's like, huh? He makes a face like he does not remember. And I'm like, this man is so unserious. The fact that he doesn't even remember what he told each girl is a huge red flag. How do you not remember what you told them? So Molly gets into her house. She loves her house. It is small, but it's perfect for her. Now for Dave, he does not own his place, but he has a business on the side. Molly does inquire about that business, and he says a medical distributing thing. A medical distributing thing? What kind of answer is that? Why do you have to be so evasive about the question? And the fact that Molly didn't ask further questions, I also have questions there too. So for him, once again, he mentions that his dad has a business, his sister is a badass. So I guess for him, it's just important to follow along the family tree and do his own thing as well. So Dave talks about how he did not apply himself academically, and Molly's like, hey, I dropped out of college, so I relate. These two, a match made in heaven, I guess. So he reveals in his last relationship that the reason why it ended is because he cheated.
That's great to hear. When you said that integrity line, I felt like it was probably something with a past relationship.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie,
And I was talking to my husband and I was like, there is just something about this man that gives that he's gonna cheat. It's just giving when he's bored, he moves on to the next one. Nothing that he has done in this show has given that he seems ready to settle down with one person. He can barely even remember what he told each woman. Now, Molly has never cheated, but she does reveal that she helped someone else cheat on their partner. So in other words, she was the other woman. Now, she claims she went through a lot of work to understand why she was willing to do that and why she was willing to be involved in that. She did not mention how long ago it was, but both of these two is cheaters. I'm like, Molly, that's cheating. Like, okay, you were not the cheater, but you were still cheating. Like, I don't know. I feel like we're getting into semantics. So once again, match made in heaven, these two cheaters. Now, Dave claims he would never do this again. He's really went through a lot of work after the whole thing happened, yada, yada, yada. Let me say it again. Everything Dave says seems disingenuous. He even talks about how at bachelor parties, sometimes in Vegas, girls will still come up to him. And I'm like, why are we bringing this up? Why are we bringing this up? This man is about to be a problem. Still scribble him down on the notepad. He's still on the notepad. He has not changed my opinion on this episode. So we go on to Monica and Joey. They are listening to some music. They're listening to her family's song. She's teaching him a dance. Everything is going well. For Joey, he has a lot of personality, so it's always been hard to find someone that matches his energy. So he loves that she has a bubbly, lively, upbeat personality. These two definitely seem like they are on the same wavelength when it comes to that. So I'm rooting for them. I actually really do like them. So for Monica, finding her person has always been very important. Finding family has been very important for her. For now, she has actually stepped away from her job to help her grandmother because her family needs a lot of help to take care of her. It sounds like she has Alzheimer's or dementia.
He just kisses her and she doesn't even really remember him.
Oh.
And like, it's amazing. And it was hard for me to be like, yeah, like
Now, she said she does not remember her grandpa any longer, but every single night, her grandma always says, I need to go over and kiss my husband. So for Monica, it is really hard because she is technically in between jobs, something she's not used to. But for her, she is grateful that she's able to step back, help her family. And obviously, of course, her grandmother and her family is way more important than any other job. Joey is extremely comforting in this time and tells her, look, you have to let go of that guilt of leaving your job because at the end of the day, no one should ever be making you feel bad for being in between jobs to help your family. And yes, of course, if you have the means, because let's be honest, a lot of people do not have the means to do that. But if you do have the means, of course, a job is a job. Jobs come and jobs go. And especially if you live in the US, you already know how these jobs, they do not care. Okay. They will have you replaced in seconds. So I loved how in that situation, Joey listened, Joey comforted her, really let her know that he was okay with that and that was something that for him, he's not judging. So I'm rooting for them. So Madison and Alex have a short conversation. He is asking her if she is a cuddler. They both talk about how they are big cuddlers. They are furnaces. They are always warm. And again, they have really good banter. Now for Madison, she does reveal in the confessional that she has narrowed it down to Mason and Alex, but she's not quite ready to pick yet. So Madison and Mason.
Always a pleasure.
With Madison, there's so many times where I just want to like burst through the wall and just start cuddling because that's
so she asks if he's a night owl. He is not a night owl. For her, she does talk about how sometimes she has insomnia and she likes to read. So she's asking him if he likes to read and he's like, I wish I could read. He's like, wait, I know how to read. Sorry, I didn't mean to say it like that. So Mason asks, what's your best Halloween costume? And she talks about the costume and he's like, oh, so were you the sexy girl at the party? Mason, I see you. He was fishing. He was definitely fishing to see what this girl looks like. Now, Madison talks about how she is a crazy dog mom and she dressed up her dog as Ugly Stitch and they had matching costumes. So he asked if she's ever seen the movie Her, and he basically describes it. It's like this guy who was talking to an AI the whole time, and that was his girlfriend, I believe. So basically, he makes some comment about how, oh, she's the voice in his head. And Madison doesn't really get it. She don't really know the movie. But he is cheesing, talking about how he was super happy to hear her voice. And he throws out there a little nugget. He throws out there, I hope I'm at the top of your list. And she's like, well, not that you're at the top of my list, but I do love the effortless conversation that we have. So Mason, he is definitely all in. You can tell that Mason has pictured something in his head. And again, I see Mason. He was trying to get some little nuggets, trying to figure out what she looks like. I think Mason is definitely very all in. So for Mason, he lets us know in the confessional that he wants to burst through this wall and cuddle with her every day because he's always thinking about her. But he has never connected with anyone the way that he's connected with Meg. And he feels there is so much chemistry there. And I thought that was interesting because at least from the first episode, it gave friends. It really did give that they laughed, they kind of banter, but I did not know that he was actually feeling a strong chemistry for Meg. So Mason and Meg, they start to get into nicknames. She's like, you're the only person that knows my real name is Margaret. They talk all about stuff. These two always have kind of a back and forth banter. So she's asking him, have you ever made a fort lately? And he loves that because that's a date night that he's always wanted to do. Now, Meg does reveal that she's never lived with a partner, but she has this fantasy of moving in with her partner. They're all sweaty and tired from moving in the boxes that are all over the floor. And they order Chinese food and then they have sex on the floor. And Mason is like, oh my God, Meg, you are you are perfect. So Meg then asks Mason, have you ever seen the movie Her? And I thought I was like, is this the producers? Because why he asked the other girl if she's ever seen that movie, and now Meg asked him. Okay, so these two are supposed to be a match. So Meg is wondering if Mason would be open to moving 45 minutes outside of the city, but then driving into the city when needed. And again, Mason is like, you are perfect. Oh my gosh, how could every single thing I ever wanted be in you? Now, they talk more about movies. They have Inception at the top. Mason talks about how he feels like Meg is an AI bot that was crafted especially for him, just like the movie Her. Mason is starting to give me weird vibes. I'm sorry. Because with the other girl, he acted like he was all in. He's talking about how he wants to burst through the wall and cuddle. He cannot stop asking about cuddling and talking about cuddling. But then when he's with Meg, Meg is his perfect woman. So I'm a little bit confused because it seems like he's feeling real heavy for two separate people. And I understand that happens, but usually there's a bit of a differentiator. And this man is giving me that he's going to try to find the girl that's the hottest and pick her. That's why he keeps asking questions. Because he also asked Meg about Halloween costumes. Maybe that was later in the episode. But yeah, I remember he asked Meg about Halloween costumes too, and also asks the same question. Do you pick the sexy costumes? And that question that he keeps asking about the sexy costumes is to get a vibe for what they look like. I really think that Mason's going to try to pick the one he thinks is the hottest. I'm watching him. Cape, put Mason on the notepad, okay? Put Mason on that notepad because something about his vibe is off. So Virginia and Devin, and I'm like, finally we seeing a black couple.
You deserve a nice guy. Someone that should treat you right.
I appreciate that.
Of course.
I appreciate that. I love that.
So she is teasing him. She is describing her full outfit. She was that girl that wore high heels in school every single day. Now, he asked what is different about her she asks, what is different about her from the other people that he has dated. He said in the past, he's went with like the sporty basketball player type girl. Now for her, she's dated a lot of creatives in the past, and a lot of them were extremely self-centered. And once again, there is a little talk about how Devin is younger than a lot of these people. The age keeps coming up. And again, I wonder, is that going to be a hang up? Because it's one thing when you're talking behind the pods, it's another thing when you're living together. So for Virginia, she does want to date someone that is completely different than anyone she's ever dated before, hence the reason that she's come to this experiment. She's never dated a guy that is actually nice to her, and I felt like that was extremely sad. I feel like there is too many of us women that have that same story, and yeah. I don't know. It's just horrible to hear that you've never dated a guy that has treated you like you deserve. So for her, Devin is different to her because he works with kids, he has a big heart, but also she can just tell that he is a kind person. Now for Devin, he also loves how kind Virginia is. He talks about it in the confessional, but for him, it is even between Virginia and Britney right now. And he does feel like with Britney, he has always related to her on a basketball level. They both coach, they both play, and she brightens his day every single time. So Britney and Devin.
Into the song, the albums before you like buy them, like with the headphones there. She must have done that and heard all that cursing. And she got, we opened up.
Now, Britney did not tell her dad that she was coming. She said he got a big mouth and he would tell everyone. So she's going to tell him a little bit later. They both find out that their dads are named Willie Jr., just Willie. It doesn't stand for anything. Now, Britney did tell her mom about this experiment and she was worried about reality TV and all of the weird things that happen. For her mom did not want her to play basketball because she'd be dressing like a boy. And I was like, And she didn't want her to be a cheerleader, popping her ass. So for her, she definitely grew up with the religious mama, only listened to gospel music. Devin's like, I love gospel though. And he brings up so many different artists. And she really was never able to listen to hip hop. She said she wanted Lil Wayne's The Carter 3, I think, or something like that for Christmas. But very religious mom, definitely sheltered from a lot of different things. I'm interested to know what her mom is like these days. So for him, his favorite artist is Giveon, and she asked him to sing and he says no. So found that to be very interesting. Obviously and clearly, I don't believe she's that way. I don't remember if Britney was one of those people that mentioned that her faith is really important to her, but definitely her mom is that way. So we shall see. So Monica and Joey, they have a little bit of banter. He's like, hey, you remember when you say you like to take naps when you're uncomfortable? And she's like, no, I never said that. Ha ha ha. But they're laughing. These two always get along. And then Joey does propose to her.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
We have our first proposal, Monica and Joey. Next, Madison and Alex. They are talking and she says that she was thinking of him last night. So he asks, what are you like when there's conflict in a relationship? Do you yell? Do you scream? For her, she says, first off, physically, I cannot yell. And I don't know what that means. I don't know if she meant she had like a medical condition or she just, I don't know. But she also grew up with a very angry dad. So for her, yelling is not something she likes to do. I definitely relate to that. You get that trauma, you feel that discomfort when you hear people yelling. So I saw where she was coming from. Now for him, he was cheated on by a previous partner that he lived with. I also relate to that. And I also knew how he felt. And he said that he is very proud of himself for the way he handled that situation. Probably meaning he ain't crash out. So for him, he has never cheated. And Madison is really shocked. She's like, oh my God, the answer is usually a yes. And he's shocked that she's shocked. You could already start to tell that he's feeling a little, okay, why are you so shocked? Now, for Madison, she reveals that she's been cheated on multiple times because people initially look at her and they want her. So this is another reason why she wanted to do this experiment. So for him, he's like, okay, I hear that. How would that affect you in a relationship?
Relationships, I dealt with that, but like on the extreme end of it.
Yeah.
I'm more anxious. I feel like I'm not good enough, and so I want you to show me that, yes, you care about me and that you...
And she says, I'm gonna trust you until you give me a reason not to. So Alex then asks, what is your relationship attachment style? And she says avoidant. And this is when Alex is like, ooh boy. He says he is an anxious attachment style, and Madison can kind of tell he is getting a bit quieter. He is definitely getting a bit quieter. He is definitely not feeling happy. So Madison starts to poke around a little bit and asks like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Are you okay? Are you okay? And he says, I'm not going to lie, that is a trigger for me. I have dealt with, people who are on the more extreme end of being avoidant in previous relationships. So to hear that, it does freak me out a little bit. So Madison then goes in more to her story and talks about how on her birthday, her stepdad and mom would always be on drugs. And one year she wrote them a card saying it's either me or the drugs, and they did not choose her. So once again, she realizes how quiet he's being. And mind you, Madison is dropping so much on him. And I said this last video with Mason. I felt the same way, where Madison tells these people a lot, I believe, in an effort to be, transparent and in an effort to be open, but I do think there is a time and a place, and I'm gonna be completely honest, I think Madison has too much trauma going on right now. Because I do believe and understand why the guys on the other side would be like, wow, you have all of this. Have you been able to actually address this? You have drug addiction in your family. You have cheating in your past. You have people who have passed away. And of course, you can't prevent all of those things, but it is a lot. So once again, Alex does reiterate that he's dealt with avoidance in the past. He's dealt with people who are on the extreme end of avoidance. So it does really worry him to hear that. Now, Madison keeps going and talks about how she's a first date kisser.
I don't know, you sound scared over there.
I'm definitely not scared. I just think I have been in relationships with people like that, like not like you.
And at this point, Alex is pacing around the room. He's like, oh, I like that. Okay, that's cool. But then she gets into how she was very religious growing up. So for her, sex and talking about sex for women was very, very taboo. She did not have sex until she was 22 years old. And she had a lot of shame around having sex before marriage. So with her partner, this would definitely need to be something that she dives into. And at this point, Alex was gone. Alex was gone when she said she was an avoidant, but Alex was very, very gone when she says that she has all of this trauma surrounding sex. Now for him, he says a few dates later. We could talk about it. We could definitely talk about this, but it's got to be a few dates later because I think at this point he was very overwhelmed. Alex does say that coming in, Madison was his strongest connection, but he really needs to think about this attachment style conversation. Maybe initially he was attracted to her because we naturally pick people that are like the people we were with in real life. But for him, he needs to see, is this actually a connection or is it just out of comfort? And again, with Madison, I'm gonna be honest, Madison has a lot going on. She has a lot going on. And I'm not saying that when you have a lot going on, you don't deserve love. But as someone who has been the person that has revealed a lot of trauma to someone, maybe way too early, and someone who has also dealt with people that have a lot of trauma, it can be extremely hard. And I do think people have the right to question whether they are equipped to deal with that. On these shows, it's already hard enough marrying a stranger. So now marrying a stranger who comes with a whole lot of baggage, I think Alex, I'm going to give him honest credit. I think it is very, very good that he is really thinking about, is this something I can handle? Is this something I can handle before I get into this situation and then I treat somebody poorly because I realize I can't actually handle it? And I do think that it's very clear that Alex went to therapy. He used a lot of therapy terminology. A lot of the questions he asked seem very guided by going to therapy. So I respected Alex in this conversation. I don't think that he's in the wrong. I don't blame Madison for the life she has, but I do think Madison, again, has to realize that there is a lot that she's putting on people, and that does scare people away. And that is the honest truth, that sometimes when you have a lot going on, it scares people away. So Madison and Mason talk once again. He talks about how he was putting a pillow under his arm last night, imagining what it was like to cuddle with her.
A bad person. It's just they've been in a shitty situation that made people like, oh, maybe she's not evil. Maybe she was just treated wrong.
She describes her full outfit. She's like, I got on a blue slip dress. I got on these booties. You could definitely tell Mason is Madison's more fun connection. She definitely seems to be a bit more giggly, a bit more flirty. And again, it is very clear that this man, Mason, is horny. Okay, he is trying to figure out which of these two girls is hotter. I'm sorry, if you can't see it, watch this show closely. Watch the next episode closely, because Mason is really trying to scope out which girl is hotter. You cannot tell me that I am wrong. So they play a game, they listen to some music, and she starts to talk about how she played volleyball, basketball, and softball. And he's like, do you still have the volleyball uniform? Because I would really want to see you put that on. And she's like, yeah, I don't have it. He's like, oh my God, I love mini skirts. She's like, ooh, I could put a mini skirt on for you. He's like, I would let you do whatever you want to me if you put a mini skirt on. And she's like, I'd give you a little lap dance. And I'm like, okay. I guess you guys had the deep conversation yesterday, and today you're having the more fun conversation. Okay. So Madison loves how Mason is able to express his feelings, how he's very vulnerable and open. And he talks about how in the past, he used to have trouble finding the right words to describe how he was feeling. He would use the wrong words. So he loves that here he feels comfortable enough to open up, and he feels like he can be vulnerable. I don't know. I'm going to be honest. Mason gives me, I find it very hard to read Mason. So I don't know which one of these connections I think is the strongest, but I do not think that Alex is going to pick Madison. I think next episode, he's going to break up with her. And if you know, do not spoil it, because I know the episode's already up. That's just the vibe I get, personally speaking, though. So Meg, at this point, is talking in the pods with the curly-haired girl with the tattoos. I forgot her name, but she's basically saying that she really likes Mason. She's talking about him and asking what his last name is. And she says that she heard from Madison that Mason's last name is Czechoslovakian. And so Meg kind of has a look on her face now like, oh, so their connection is like that, huh? So Meg says that she's been dropping subtle hints about the way that she feels about Mason. She hasn't come out directly and said it, but for her, inside, she definitely knows that Mason is the person that she wants. So Meg and Mason. So Mason asked Madison what is the best Halloween costume she had. She said she dressed up as Gwen Stefani with a blue fuzzy bra and all of this kind of stuff. He's like, oh, so do you always go for the sexy costumes? And as I said, I've said it 3 times in this video, he is trying to scope out what these two women look like. So for both of them, their last relationships were 2 years ago. Now, Meg says that she thought that she was going to find her person in college and end up marrying that person, but it didn't work out that way. So instead, in her 20s, she was a flight attendant. She was able to build her friendship in Cali. She was able to just be crazy and have fun. And now in her 30s, she's more settled in her career. And we know she's an oncology nurse, so I wonder how she made that transition. Now, Mason was worried about people in the experiment doing it for the wrong reasons, worried about making a connection with someone, and then he finds out that they're here for nefarious reasons. And I'm like, Mason, you feel like you're here for nefarious reasons. For Meg, she says that she's never asked a partner the kind of questions that she's asked in the pod. So this has been a really fun time for her. She's never had a partner where she's talked about a house, kids, a car. And I'm like, what? I don't know. Meg gives me very surface level. And as I said, I'm not saying this woman is not brilliant. She's clearly a nurse, but it seems like at least in her personal life, she gives me very surface level. To say that you have never asked a previous partner simple questions such as, do you want kids or something of that nature? What kind of dating are you doing? I don't know. So for Mason, he said he's never had a chance to think of the things he wants in a partner. And I'm like, y'all seem like you have no real dating experience. Why are you trying to get married? So they get into a conversation about reincarnation because Meg says she believes that souls can meet in multiple different lifetimes.
You can just if not be with in a different lifetime, just like kind of energy being matched.
He does believe in reincarnation. He believes that there is soulmates out there and that the energy can be matched. So Meg is telling the girls in the pods, look, I'm going to be honest, my number one, I am not their number one.
Oh, I know after that I'm not his top, which is fine. But it makes me switch my energy up to where I'm like it's not what I thought it was then. Yeah. Because he was like, every time I see her, I get excited.
So in other words, she says she realizes that Mason was her top, but she could tell from the conversation that she's not Mason's top. And in the conversation, she realized that he was saying things such as, oh, when I see you, I'm excited, but I'm confused. For her, she knows she's not confused. So she's starting to realize that. I'm wondering what's going to happen next, if she's going to confront him in the next episode about it. But we end off this episode with the beginning of Joey and Monica's reveal. And that means we're going to have another episode of the pods. Y'all know me, I don't really like the pod part. I like how Married at First Sight finally has gotten it right, where the weddings are 1, maybe 1.5 episodes, and then they get onto the relationships. So I am really hoping that all 6 of these episodes are not pods. But anyways, some more speculation. My new notepad edition is Mason, as I've said, but we shall see how things continue on. Will Joey and Monica like each other? We will see. So if you made it to this point in the video, that means you liked the video. So I would greatly appreciate if you would consider supporting the channel by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. It helps to get the videos out there and it inspires me to keep creating. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next Married at First Sight, in the next Love is Blind video tomorrow. Bye.